Hey solos, I have another solo story for you, and this one is just, they're all really wonderful, but I'm really excited to share this one with you. Hi everyone, it's Samantha. Olaf may not know who Samantha is, but now you do, and welcome to Disney Solo Magic, the number one podcast for solo travel to Disney World. And I have just been so remiss at prioritizing podcast stuff in the last couple weeks. I sincerely apologize. I have had this particular episode for like a month now. I've been so excited to share it with you. And I did record my summary of my last solo trip, but it just needs to be edited. And long story short, I got a new job kinda. So there's just a lot of tech stuff. I'm in between multiple computers and multiple phones, and anyway, it's no excuse, but it's the explanation of why I've been a little remiss. So this solo story with Justin is really fantastic, and it will be the last solo story of the year, I guess. Well, I guess my own bonus story. Anyway, Justin is a dad, and he got in touch with me. He's been a listener, and he got in touch with me to ask me a couple questions about his upcoming solo trip, and it was really wonderful to connect with him, as always. It's just wonderful to connect with listeners, and I was let me know when you come back because I would love to hear about the trip. And it was great to connect with him. He was able to provide perspectives on his trip that we really haven't been able to feature too much in this podcast. Like I said, he's a dad, he's a straight guy, he works in military adjacent. It was really cool to be able to talk about things like safety, which is something that I don't necessarily think a lot of men think about in the same way that women and femme people too, but it was really, really great to hear his perspectives on these things. And I want more of that. I have a list of types of people that I would love to talk to for next year to talk about their solo experiences. So if you haven't heard your experience represented in the solo stories, please let me know. It would be great to talk with you for 2026. Okay, what else? All right, so number one, yes, the bonus episode about my trip was going to go up this weekend, fingers crossed, or Monday, I don't know, soon. There will be no Christmas episode, only because I don't think there will be. I'm just being honest. But I do have a New Year's episode already recorded, and it will just need editing. So hopefully that'll be ready for you. And then I already have another solo story all queued up about the DVC. I'm going to talk to the Dapper Danielle again about her new Epcot book that's coming out in January. I hope you loved the episode with Forever Castles. I know some of you have already got those books, which is really fantastic. I'm really glad. Instagram, Facebook, Threads, Patreon, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, all those things. I would love to do an update of all of the social media stuff over the Christmas holidays, so brace yourself for maybe just a flood on your social media feed, but that will, again, depend on timing. And what else? I don't know. Let's just get into it. Let's get into talking with Justin. It was so wonderful to meet him. Justin, thank you so much for coming on the Disney Solo Magic podcast, and thanks for listening. You're one of the listeners who contacted me through DMs, and after your trip, I was like, ooh, can we talk about it? So thank you so much for coming on. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Justin Rodriguez, and I live in North Carolina here in the United States. And I am a huge Disney fan, always have been.
And we were talking right before we were recording that I was like, wow, I wasn't expecting you to have a Southern accent. Justin does not think he has a Southern accent.
I still don't, even talking now, I'm like, I don't have a Southern accent, but it's just, I've lived in North Carolina for the past 13 years. I spent 4 years here, stationed here, was in the military. I guess it's grown on me.
It's always fun to hear different accents, which is why it's so great to do this podcast to connect with so many people. And when you had gotten in touch, you were talking about doing a solo trip. And if I remember correctly, it was your first solo trip to Disney, but you have gone with your family before.
Oh, we go quite often. We had gone earlier this year, in fact. My wife in her profession, she gets to attend a conference every February down in Orlando. And that conference normally takes place at one of the Hiltons that's right there next to Disney Springs. So we normally tag along, and we do kind of like a pseudo family trip. It's shorter than our normal trip, but we've gotten to go to Disney the last 3 years, I think in a row, 4 years in a row, and we've done. I think it was 20. I don't remember what year it was. There was one year where we went 3 times. We went totally like crazy because we went in February for her conference. Me and her took a trip, a couple's trip, like in the middle of July. That's back when the Food and Wine Festival was starting really, really early.
Yeah.
And then we went again as a family. I think like literally 4 or 5 weeks later in August. So that year we kind of went crazy. But yeah, we've gone a bunch. My wife and I even honeymooned to Disney when we got married. We stayed at the Animal Kingdom Lodge. So Disney is it's in our family, it's in our blood. It's definitely a thing for us.
Well, I love that so much because in this conversation, we're talk about your solo trip, you going as a family. You have two children, is that right?
Mhm. 2 daughters. Yep.
Yeah, a family of four, and then like a family of three, because I assume that when your wife is in the conference, you and your daughters can do stuff, and
Yep.
then you and your wife. So it's like that whole spectrum of types of trips.
Yep. We've
Is
done it a
solo your
bunch of different
favorite
ways.
now that you've done it?
I don't think it's my favorite. No.
Oh, okay.
I definitely have that parent perspective. And it's obviously changed as the girls have aged.
Right,
Um, but I think a parent, at least from my experience, I have much more fun watching them have fun.
right.
Like that to me is part of the magic, especially when they're little. Like I think if I think back, like my older daughter, who's now 17, her first trip to Disney was actually Disneyland when she was little. We took her, just she couldn't even, it was a stroller, that whole experience. And then I took her to Disneyland a second time right before she turned 3 because we lived out in California at the time. We lived about 2 hours away. I actually took her a second time where it was just me and her right
Mm,
before she turned 3 because she was still free. So I said, why
right.
not go?
Yeah, exactly.
Um, but she went to Disney World when she was little. I think her first trip to Disney World was actually while my wife was pregnant with our second daughter. So we have a picture of my wife standing in front of Epcot with big baby belly.
Yeah.
I think that was her first Disney World experience, like 2010. So yeah, I've done every kind of trip, kids, no kids, yeah. But I think that experiencing it with your family, planning it for your family, seeing your family enjoy it, I think that's still more fun. I loved solo. I'm gonna do solo again, but I definitely do enjoy having the family there.
Well, that's so nice, right? Because that's the idea that families can come and do things together, especially with your girls now in their teens. But I love that you're doing some kind of transition trips, right? Like just you and your wife and just you solo because that, like that ensures that it's not just all about this family unit. It's about all the individuals in the family as well. And that makes the family unit stronger, right? When there's
Yeah.
individuals that really get to understand what they like and what they get to do.
Yeah, and just it's not you learn more about each other. My daughters each have their favorite thing. My older daughter really loves Moana, and my younger daughter really loves Stitch, and my wife has her favorites like Bambi, is one of her
Ooh, oh,
favorites.
that's a bit of a hunt. Oh, oh,
Yeah.
I don't, I didn't, that's not the best term. I just meant it's harder to find Bambi stuff in the parks.
Yes, it is. It
Yeah.
can be. And luckily, there's been a few good lounge flies that have come out recently that are Bambi themed. But she also likes Fox and the Hound, so I think she likes some of the more traditional stuff. But she also likes Encanto. When that came out, my wife really enjoyed that too. So,
And
but
you?
everybody,
And what do you like?
I'd have to say my favorite Disney movie of all of them. Like it's so hard for me because I've been watching it since I was a little kid. I'd have to say my absolute favorite Disney movie of all is Mary Poppins. Julie Andrews, Mary Poppins, of course.
Of
I
course.
literally have a tattoo of Julie Andrews. It's upside down, but that's Mary
Oh my
Poppins
God,
on
I
my
love
arm.
it.
Um, it's just that's always been my movie growing up. And I like the new one as well. Don't get me wrong, but Julie Andrews, Mary Poppins, that will always be my favorite. Coco is probably my second favorite. I am Mexican American. And that movie always makes me a little bit emotional. And especially like with that movie coming out also, it's there's this conversation around representation in media, and it's easy for many people to disregard that. But when you finally get a movie made from your culture's point of view, then you really appreciate what that means. Like it takes on a
Hmm.
new meaning. So Coco definitely became that for me. And then also I think Hercules might be my third favorite movie. So I got a little bit of a difference in all of them, but
Yeah, that's
um,
a great trifecta.
yeah,
Mary Poppins is one of my faves too. I'm trying to think if I have Mary Poppins stuff like directly beside me. Usually I do like in my office, like in my office, like not my home office. I have all these like Mary Poppins things hidden away in bookshelves and things like that.
yeah, it's she's always been that's always been one of my favorites. Like growing up, I lived in a household that couldn't afford the Disney Channel. So when Mary Poppins comes on, like they show it on movie night on whatever that channel was, you'd pop a VHS tape in the VCR and hit record, and we rewinded that tape a million times, watching that movie. And it's so much easier to watch now. But until recently, um, I was always the critic, like, why doesn't Disney do more for Mary Poppins? Like I just feel like that's such that they don't give her the credit she's due. And I guess she finally has a meet and greet in Hollywood Studios now that's like scheduled and like, but before it was like you catch her if she's wandering, you can see her
Yeah.
in a parade. They were going to do a ride and then they scrapped it, at Epcot. And so I wish that they would give Mary Poppins a little bit more of her due.
I heard that ride
Yeah,
was just going to be basically like a teacup ride. And so I also just felt like, oh,
yeah. Do
that
we need
really,
another
like
one?
that
Yeah,
wouldn't have even been up to her standards.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
And what you're saying about representation, I totally understand. And what I think that Disney's been doing so well over the last decade, maybe half decade, is research in communities in order to ensure that that representation is really authentic. And then you can see it then in the parks, the way that it gets migrated to the parks. And it really does make it feel like a more it's not just like the representation of these cultures from like a dominant culture, but it really does feel like now you can learn something. Like there's different views, and so I do think that Disney's doing a good job of that. And I mean, I wish there were more, but so far so good. I'm so excited for the new like Latin Americas in
Yes.
Animal Kingdom.
Yeah, I probably I don't know. I can't tell based on social media if I'm in the minority or the majority because everything seems to be so polarizing. But I personally am glad that Dino Land is going away.
Me
We do
too,
love the
100%.
dinosaur ride. My daughter loves the dinosaur ride. We will miss that, but that whole part of the park just felt like it never fit to me.
No.
And that being there always is that's what kind of played into the Animal Kingdom half day park stereotype. It's
Yeah.
just there wasn't, the Boneyard was nice for little kids. We kind of aged out of that. Triceratops Spin, there's three other versions of that ride around Disney, so I'm glad that they're updating it and that we're going to have more stuff to do at Animal Kingdom.
For sure. It always felt like Molly from Mammoth Club did a deep dive when she was doing all ears about the backstory. And like it's a really interesting backstory, but you don't really feel it. And it just felt like such an energy suck. Like that
Yeah.
concrete, it was just like, this is not working. I think what they're going to do is just really beautiful. And I do think it's going to be really representative of different Latin American cultures. And yeah, I'm really excited.
Yeah. And I also, this might be another unpopular hot take, but I
Oh,
also felt that Moana in Epcot was out of place. I felt like that water should have been in Animal Kingdom. Like I
yeah.
felt like they could have somehow, but I know that Hawaii doesn't or really fit into any of the Animal Kingdom countries, but that just felt very earthy and very, nature based. And then they kind of, I mean, it's right next to Nemo, so I guess it kind of makes sense, but I don't know. I just felt like the Moana attraction was misplaced.
I agree. I do feel like it was misplaced. Also like Pocahontas should not be in Animal Kingdom. That's super weird and problematic. Yeah, so I don't know. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. Animal Kingdom is wonderful. Let's talk a little bit about your solo story, just generally.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
tell me about like the impetus to go solo. Tell me about what that was like how long you were there, all that stuff before we kind of get into the more details.
So my idea for a solo trip actually kind of sprouted from our February trip that we took earlier in the year, which again was from my wife's conference. But we all went, and we are privileged as a family to have been able to go so many times. And having teen daughters that have been multiple times, a wife that's been multiple times, who's also there for work as well as play. Um, I think that the novelty had just worn off to a point where everybody knew exactly what they wanted to do, and that's all they wanted to do. Like,
Mm,
let's hit this big thing and then skip 50% of the park, hit this big thing, skip 50% of it, and that it just became like we were going from highlight to highlight and missing a lot of the small things because we'd seen them so many times. And so we as a family, we were getting a little frustrated with each other trying to figure out what to do next and where to
mm,
go. And we were missing things that I didn't want to miss. And then you start getting into, well, so and so doesn't like fireworks, so and so doesn't like parades, they don't want to stop and plan and sit and guard a spot. And so it just kind of struck me like, you know what, maybe I just need to come back by myself. And that's kind of where the idea came from. And at first it really did start off as a joke. I never really thought that I would ever take a solo trip to Disney. um, but it became more and more real. And it was after my wife and daughter had taken a trip together, just like an overnight trip into Raleigh. And when they got back from their trip, my wife's like, you know what? Maybe you should just go ahead and start planning your solo trip now. I think her taking that little overnight trip with my daughter was like, okay, I can see it now. Like, maybe you should just go ahead. Like, I guess you can go ahead and do it. She gave me permission,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So so I was like, I'm not going to sit here and ask questions. You give me permission, I'm going to run with it. So,
Yeah.
but it also, being fair and compromising, I was like, look, if I'm going by myself, I don't need to stay in a deluxe resort. I don't need to fly first class. I don't need to eat every meal at a table service. I could really do this on a budget. And that's exactly what I did. I said, I'm going to plan this trip literally for the least amount that I can do. And that's how it started. And I did splurge here and there as the trip got closer and while I was there. But yeah, I really tried to make this trip very, very simple. And so it just so happened to work out. We have an airport about 30 minutes from here, where Breeze flies out of, and they have nonstop flights. So I was able to get a flight there and back very cheap. It was only 30-minute drive, so it's close to my house. The big airport is Raleigh, but that's about an hour and a half from where I am, and parking is very expensive there. So flew out of that airport, made my way down to Orlando, and they only do flights Mondays and Fridays. So I said, I'll
Mm,
leave on a Monday, I'll come back on a Friday. So it
perfect.
was a 5-day trip. And that 5-day trip, I knew like you have your arrival day, I'll have 3 days in the parks, and I'll have a departure day. That's kind of how I planned it. Um, and it actually evolved because at first I was planning on staying at like All Stars,
Hmm.
and I was going to stay at All Stars and I was going to do 2 parks. That was the original plan. And then I was able to, I used one of the Disney like discount websites, Undercover Tourist, and I actually ended up finding a deal for Pop Century that was cheaper than like I guess the full price of an All Star.
Right.
So it just worked out for my dates where, and I was like, well, if Pop Century is going to be cheaper, then it'll be a little bit nicer place to stay. I'll have access to the Skyliner, and now maybe I can do an extra day in the park, and that's kind of how that evolved. So that's why I ended up doing. I stayed at Pop, which was my first time ever staying at Pop, and then yeah, I did Tuesday in Magic Kingdom, I did Wednesday at Hollywood Studios, and then I did Thursday at Epcot. And that Thursday at Epcot, which was it was actually down there for my birthday. That Thursday actually was my birthday, and that was also happened to be a day that Epcot was doing after hours. So
Fantastic.
I literally went rope drop till 1 o'clock in the morning at Epcot. So
Did you wear a
that
birthday
was a
pin?
long day.
Did you wear
Do
a
what?
birthday pin? Did you wear a
I
birthday pin?
did, yes. And that was going to be something I was going to throw in as a tip later because I know you were going to ask about solo tips. But that pin, I think, not to be too cheesy about it, but I think that pin made the trip. Not because of the pixie dust, not because, I mean, I did get pixie dusted a few times, little free drink here or there, free snack here and there. But, a lot of people, when they go solo, they're so worried about the social aspect, like talking to people, meeting characters and starting a conversation. That pin is the icebreaker. everybody sees that pin, even not just cast members, just other people walking through the parks, just random people will tell you happy birthday. Kids, they'll point at your pin, oh, happy birthday. It's such an icebreaker. And I think that, relieves the tension, like, so I think that pin really, really made the trip.
I love that so much because I think that some people can think like the birthday pins are cheesy or that like if they're going solo they don't want that attention, but I totally agree. Like when when you are entering Disney, you are entering into a community, and when you're wearing your birthday pin, you're like, okay, look, here I am in the community. Like, interact with me as part of the community. And I'm very like strict about my personal birthday pin rules. I only like to wear it like for the birthday trip, which you seem to do as well. But I just think it's such a special way to like acknowledge your birthday, but also being in the community. I love that so much.
Yeah, and you see every other kind of pin as well. I met a few people. One lady was celebrating finishing her doctorate. Like that's kind of a big deal, like,
It
and
is a
just,
huge
then
deal.
you see the anniversaries, these elderly couples that are walking around with like their 60th anniversary.
Yeah,
Like they're just, and you just say, hey, you're not sitting there trying to get their life stories, but it's a conversation starter. It's like
yeah,
that icebreaker that allows you to socialize. You can just, hey, you can read it. You don't even have to come up and ask me. You can say, hey, it's your birthday, happy birthday. And it just,
yeah.
I think it takes the tension down a level to where it makes it easier to interact.
100%. I have seen people with like a birthday pin, like from the dollar store, just like walking around the city or whatever. And I'm like, happy birthday. And they're like, ah, why is this crazy lady talking to me? And then I saw this one guy walking and he had like a first time pin on his backpack and he's just walking in Toronto. And I was like, first time at Disney. And he's like, sorry. Like, what is happening, lady? And then I like point out the pin, and then immediately when I point out the pin, he was like, got into Disney mode, and now all of a sudden we're
Yeah.
like talking. Like it's just such a nice call out to everyone around that like we can all celebrate together. I love that you wore the pin. That's amazing.
Yep. And we again, that's a family thing too. Like I collect pins, we do pin trading, but yeah, anytime
Cool.
we go, um, we always try to wear a pin if it's appropriate. February isn't really a big celebration month for us, so when we go, we don't have any reason to wear a pin then. But birthdays definitely first time. Like when we go in May, we have another trip planned for May. We're going to be taking a friend who's never been, so he'll get to wear a first time pin. So it's just fun. It's a
That's
fun
awesome.
thing to do.
That's awesome. Okay, so I have a whole bunch of questions from that little introduction. So, when your wife was like, "Okay, I think you should go, like we have the budget, you have the time, all of that." Did did you have any like ah, what's the word I'm looking for? Like anxiety comes to mind, but that's not really the right word. Like any sort of guilt about being like, like a dad, a husband, an employee that's like, I'm just going to do this trip that some people might think is like frivolous. Like, did you feel any of that? Did in booking like an inexpensive airline, an inexpensive hotel, were you just trying to be like respectful of the family budget, or were you also like playing small? Like, you understand what I mean? Like, can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that?
Well, there was obviously the concern about like if I decide to take this trip on my own, are my kids going to be angry at me? So there is that kind of like they're going to be mad they can't go. But they both, I think they both really understood why I wanted to do it. They knew that it was just something to do for me because this just wasn't a solo trip to Disney. Like I as an adult, as a person, I've never gone on any kind of vacation on my own.
Oh, really?
So
Interesting.
this was like a first experience, just like getting away to relax on my own. So it was new in two ways there. So, but they also kind of knew that it was like kind of like a mental health break for me, just to
Mm,
go and have fun. My wife knew that too. And then everything else is just it's kind of a compromise, like when you're planning a trip to Disney, like the automatic assumption is it's going to be so expensive, but it really doesn't have to be. Especially, if you're doing the once in a lifetime trip and you're never going back, you can splurge. But I knew going in that I was going to be, we're still people with responsibilities. I can't skip the mortgage to take a trip to Disney. Um, but on the flip side of that too, when you're going by yourself, you only have to pay for one person.
Right.
So buying a lightning lane isn't as bad when you only have to buy it for one person. So having a nice meal isn't as bad because you have to pay for one person. That's kind of an advantage. So it goes both ways. But I'd never felt any guilt. The family got on board really quick. The girls got excited helping me plan. They really enjoyed, especially my younger daughter. We texted quite regularly while I was gone. She loved seeing all the merch and
Love
all
it.
the new stuff that was there because there was a lot of stuff that was first time with all the new stuff that's just opened up. So um, no, it was a great experience, and I think the family really supported me well in what we did, and it was good.
That's awesome. I talk on the podcast about, I mean, I am talking from a woman's perspective. And so I wonder, since you've never been soloed on any sort of trip before, as a, cis, white, heterosexual male, like, were things like, were there any additional anxieties about like checking into the hotel, staying in the hotel, interacting in the park by yourself? And I mean, maybe like fears or anxieties about like yourself, but also how others might perceive you.
There were, and I'm someone who struggles with anxiety anyway. I have a diagnosed anxiety disorder.
Mm.
Um, but I also, you know, being a former military person here in the US, I was in the Marines. We also had that constant just awareness, like head on a swivel, paying attention to everybody all the time. So that there is a level of, you can call it anxiety, you can call it paranoia, you can call it and
Awareness.
preparedness, awareness,
Yeah.
whatever, however you want to label it. You can put a positive or negative spin on it. Traveling, I think, always puts me on alert, just in
Mm.
general. Um, and you have to be. I think it's good for everybody to be. I don't think I definitely have. I'd say different concerns. I wouldn't necessarily say less, but different concerns than, like, for instance, if my wife were traveling alone, she's got different things to worry about. Um, she recently had to go to a conference in Louisville, and she's making preparations to she buy an extra security for the hotel, like an extra doorstop and a special lock and all this kinds of things. I don't worry about stuff like that. So
Right.
I mean, it's definitely I'm definitely privileged in that way, um, but otherwise, like, yeah, there's a little bit of social anxiety to it as well. Because Disney is, obviously they cater to families, and in so many ways, you have these, other than families, there are different groups that they cater to, and 40-year-old straight white men is not one of the demographics that they are directly advertising or marketing to. But like, all my friends here, they all know that I'm a Disney person. I can't tell you how many people have said, "Oh, you should be a travel agent for Disney." Like, I know everything. I try to help all my friends plan and answer questions, and so they all know that about me. So I don't get any of the awkward, like, really, like, you're going to Disney? Like, I don't get that because they just know at this point, like, it's so normal. Justin
Right.
goes to Disney. It is what it is. And I guess I have the advantage in a way, if you want to look at it that way, of being, oh, well, he's a girl dad. Of course he's into Disney, but I was into Disney way before I had girls.
Yeah, yeah.
So, um, but yeah, that social anxiety, and while I was down there, I got a few looks, like, is he really here by himself? Um, Especially because I got tattoos everywhere, got a beard, and I'm not a small person, like, um, and I have the military haircut, so there's you definitely get some looks, kind of like, oh, well, maybe he's just separated from his family, or maybe he's waiting on someone. But then you get into situations like getting on a ride, and you're like, is anybody going to want to sit with me? Do I have to sit with somebody? Am I going to make them uncomfortable by sitting next to them? It was something that I was really worried about, especially because, like, say there's a woman that's at the park alone. Is she going to want someone who looks like me to sit next to her? Is she going to feel safe? I don't want to make her uncomfortable.
Hmm.
And I will say that even though I was concerned about it, that's something that never even was an issue while I was there. Um, I think of all the rides I got on, maybe it was Disney being very generous. Maybe it was the birthday pin. I don't know. But even on the rides like Pirates of the Caribbean and Frozen, which I got on all of them, I didn't skip any of them. I don't care. Uh, but they put me in a row, and I would be sitting by myself. I never even had to share a row with anyone. So the bigger rides like Tron and Guardians of the Galaxy, I always sat with somebody.
Hmm.
But it was normally another adult. You're standing in line, just having a conversation like, oh, have you ridden this before? Yeah, it's really fun. What's your favorite song? Like, there's so many ways to kind of break the ice. So I never had a bad experience there. Um, but yeah, that was one of my big concerns was not necessarily about me feeling uncomfortable, but being a girl dad, being a husband, I try to be very aware of my presence in public spaces. I don't like standing on top of other people, especially women. I try to be very conscious about my how I'm standing and my bearing and my language and just trying to be nice. And my wife, when I expressed that concern to my wife, she's like, you don't put off that kind of vibe. You don't have anything to worry about. So that was, it's good, and that's something that I'm proud of, that I can fit into a crowd, and I'm not behaving in any way that would be, considered negatively or badly. I really try to be helpful, and I think I even surprised a few people because there was one specific time I was at Epcot, and we were sitting there on the slope in front of the water waiting for the fireworks to start. And just about an hour before, I like to be there early and sit and grab some snacks. And I sat down all by myself. And I'm literally right on the tape, the yellow tape or the blue tape, whatever it is that they use to kind of like label where people can walk, the walkway. And I was right up front. So I was there. I was planned. I was ready to go. Nobody was sitting next to me. Like everybody was there, but everybody was keeping their distance. And I was just like very self-conscious. Like, what's going on here? Like, do I really look that mean or angry or what? And the only thing I could think was maybe they think I'm waiting on my family. So they're
Yeah,
giving me
definitely.
space. So I was like, okay, that's okay. I can accept that. But the fireworks were about to start, and people were still giving me a lot of space. And it's like, so I finally turned around. There were two different families there. And one family, they had a couple of young daughters. This other family behind me, I'm pretty sure that they were, I don't want to, I hate assuming, but I think they were British, from the UK or something. I could hear their accent. They had a couple small children. And I just turned around and said, hey guys, I am not waiting on anybody else. Your kids are welcome to come up here to the front. I will gladly stand behind them. And I remember the mom to my left. She just looked at me like I had three eyeballs. She's just like, oh, I was like, oh, you're actually nice and cool, and you're gonna let my kids do this. And so that's the kind of stuff I enjoy doing. Just everybody they see you and they have this expectation based on your appearance, and then you totally surprise them, and they're just like, oh, well, that's cool, awesome, thank you. So that was a fun experience. But yeah, I just think everybody had this idea about who I was and what I was doing, and I was, hey guys, I'm here by myself. If they want to come up front, they can come up front. It's okay.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and
and they were
I
very
was,
appreciative.
that's literally what I was thinking when you were telling the story. I'm like, they're thinking that you're saving this, you're saving
Yeah.
seats. Um, it's not like they're like, oh, he seems weird or this and that. Like, let's give him space. I think in that case, but while your wife is saying like you don't give off that vibe, and I certainly don't think that either. Like, you never know what other people go through and the ways that
Yeah.
they might perceive you, and so being aware of that is so awesome. And that's how we started talking, because you said that you were seeing these rumors online about people not wanting to sit beside solos. And it's funny, Justin, because after you told me that, I actually did see that on a couple different Facebook groups, and I wasn't going to tell you because I was like, I feel like that's just a rumor, like a rumor that's going around that isn't actually true. But I had said to you, like, well, just like be aware that you're a man by yourself, and you're like, oh, no, no, I totally get that part of it. It's anything else. And I think that like people's like confusion or thinking that being there solo is strange doesn't actually, I mean, like I was saying in a different episode that I hardly even see kids because I'm just like on a different energetic plane. Like I'm just doing, and so I think that when you're there and it's busy and you have all these different like people around, like all your family and stuff, that when you're seeing somebody that's like vibing on their own, it's so incomprehensible because you're like, I have spent so long today just wrangling children, right? So I think that's a lot of where it comes from, because I really don't think of Disney as a judgmental place. But I wonder, when you're talking about like your awareness or some anxiety, especially when you're traveling, if that decreased at all. If there was like a change in that, in your like perception of your an awareness of your surroundings or your anxiety once you got to Disney. Like I know that, I talk about this, my first trip as like an adult, I was there with my mother and we had gone from Jacksonville, where I was also there for a conference, to Orlando. And as soon as we got to the Disney hotel, I was like, oh, this is different. We can just relax into this.
Yeah. No, there you definitely feel the shift, and that is the Disney bubble, you
Hmm.
know. But yeah, once I got there, I had no concerns. It was Hakuna Matata. It was no worries, like
Did you
uh
like Pop Century?
I did. I really, really did. And I enjoyed it way more than I thought I would. It definitely, everybody, what I kept reading online in all the reviews was Pop Century is a vibe. And that can't, like, that's a very vague statement, but it can't be more spot on. Like,
Yeah.
Pop Century literally is a vibe. And I stayed, I think I was in the 70s section. So like it was a convenient location, and I just, everything was perfect there. Like I had everything. The buses when I needed them, the Skyliner when I needed them, the gift shop and the new they kind of revamped the dining area there, and they had the
Yeah.
new coffee stand in the dining area. Like all of that was awesome. I was there before they started the lobby construction, so I didn't have to. I got to see all the shadow boxes on the wall and stuff like
Good.
that.
Yeah.
Right after I left is when they kind of started changing everything wholesale. But no, Pop Century was perfect. And you get there, you get off the bus, and I did the mirrors. I got off the
Yep.
plane, went down to Mears, got on the bus. Super easy, no long waits or anything. We stopped at All Star before we went to Pop, got off at Pop, and everything was super simple. Like, and you kind of, it is the Disney bubble. You get there and you kind of drop your guard a little bit, and it's good to do that. And that's part of the reason why. That is part of the reason, like, other than just Disney people loving Disney, that is, I think, the advantage of a place like Disney is you're going solo, so you have your travel stuff, the logistics to worry about, but the Disney bubble makes it so easy. Like
Yeah.
everything is at your fingertips. Like your food is there, your transportation's there. You don't have to worry about. I mean, you can take your car if you want to. I even when I drive, I don't use my car.
Yeah.
It just stays in the parking lot for 5 or 6 days, and that's that. But the Disney bubble just puts everything together for you. You don't have to worry about anything other than paying for it, really. Like,
And that you
so
can put on your Magic Band and deal with it once you're back at
yeah.
home.
So yeah, I definitely felt the shift. Once I was there, I had no problems. Um, didn't really have I can't there's only one awkward situation that I can remember the whole time I was being there. And and I only remember one instance where I that made me really, really self-conscious. So those are funny. Like my first day was Magic Kingdom.
Hmm.
And obviously booking lightning lanes, there's a strategy to book a burner right at the beginning so you can use it and open up all the tiers. So I did the teacups. So here I am, big tattooed guy, whatever, sitting in the teacups all by himself, and I could just feel the eyeballs from like the people waiting in line and the kids, and everyone's kind of like, he's in a teacup by himself. And at that point, you're just like, let it go. Like you just got to let it go. Like just
Yeah.
to have fun, do what it is. And after that, like that moment came and went, and I was like, if that's all it's going to be, we're just going to have fun. Like
Yeah.
that was that. And I went and rode Dumbo after that. And there were a few things that I did. I tried to do everything. Time obviously doesn't always allow that, but I didn't skip anything just for the sake of skipping it. But the one awkward experience, the one, and I won't say it's bad, but the one weird experience I had kind of relates to sitting with people on a ride. My Epcot day, I was going to Remy's at the back of Epcot, right at the beginning of the after hours party. There's like nobody, everybody's exiting the park. The crowds at after hours, especially Epcot after hours, are very, very light. The park looks practically empty. And of course, everybody's at this point is up front by Guardians and Test Track because that's open for after hours. So Remy's is super light. We literally walk straight through the entire queue, get right on. And so I'm in line with these ladies, and I had been on it already that day. I've been on a million times, and they had put us, they lined us up in the queue to where I was going to be in the front of the mouse and they were going to be in the back of the mouse. So again, I asked them, I said, hey, ladies, I've been on this ride a million times. Do you guys want to sit in the front? I will gladly sit in the back. And at this point, I'm by myself. So they're like, that would be awesome. So we swap places and I'll sit in the back. I let them sit in front. Well, right there at that moment, there's another couple behind me who thought they were going to be on the next ride. And I am not a small person. Like, I'm 240 pounds. I got very broad shoulders. And the two people that were behind me were also not very small humans. And the ride operator, who I don't think English was their first language. I think they were actually from France or whatever.
Right.
So it was a little hard to understand. We're like, no, you get on with him. You get on with him. And literally crammed all three of us. And so at first they looked at him like he was a little crazy and looked at me like I was a little crazy. And we're all like doing this, like, is this really going to happen? And it was totally fine though, because the cast member didn't say anything. The cast member was just like, yep, get on. And so I looked at him and I looked at the people in line and said, you know what, guys, just come on. We will figure it out. We'll have fun. And we did. We all got in there. We all made it work. But I had to kind of take the moment to yes, just come on. We're going to have fun. We're going to do this. We're going to. So that was the only like awkward seating scenario that I faced my whole time there. But it ended up working out just fine.
Yeah, like we're just, oh God, I hate being a person that's like, these days, blah, 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 blah. But like these days, there are so few opportunities to just interact in community with our phones and like since COVID and like delivery and all this stuff, and it's like Disney is a place that you can do that. And then people often really love that, right? Like you're just connecting with people and you're like saying the thing out loud, like, oh, this seems awkward, but we're going to do it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And I think people just these days are so on guard. I think everybody
Oh,
is
yeah,
prepared,
heightened politics and that stuff too.
defensive,
Yeah.
and so when somebody is willing to break the ice
Yeah.
and just, hey, guys, it's okay. We're all safe. We're gonna have fun. Then everybody's kind of like exhale,
Yeah.
and then it's okay. But until that moment happens, which it doesn't always happen, sometimes the tension just stays there.
Yeah.
But I think Disney is a good place where you can drop that guard, and just say, hey, come on, we're gonna have fun, and then everybody settles in and we have fun. So
Yeah.
it ended up working out just fine.
I wanted to ask a pop century question before I we talk about like things that you like maybe your next solo trip. But the pop century question I had for you was, did you walk around to the other sections, in particular the 90s section?
I did not make it to the 90 section. The only real strolling that I did, um, obviously to and from the 70s to the lobby, to the bus stops. I like I said, I only stayed there once. There was one time where I would go back to the lobby to get to the bus stop, but there was one time where I decided not to, and I went the far way around. And I don't remember that might have been the 80 section over there, and I think it
Yeah.
was because I remember hearing Huey Lewis music, and I love Huey Lewis.
Okay. Well, see, my question is about the music because they put me in the 90s section once and it was like I feel like I'm at a like I feel like this is way too much like grade 8 drama for these songs and I cannot do this. Like I was like if I hear Matchbox 20 one more time
Oh
like this
yeah.
is not. So it's just funny because I love Pop Century, but staying in the 90s section in particular, I was like as someone in my early 40s, I was like, "Oh, no, no, I don't want this soundtrack. This soundtrack is other things."
No, the 70 section worked good for me. I was kind of like on the inside, and I was right there where the big foosball characters are,
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
giant foosball. So I was kind of right there, and it was a perfect location for me. I didn't venture at all to the other side, like the pool's right in the middle. I never went past the pool to
To
go
like the
to the other
50s
side.
section and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and they were still working on some of the rooms there as well in the 60 section, I believe. But no, I when I go to Disney, like if we're gonna try to like we try to sometimes have to plan our rest days. Like I know that sounds weird. Like rest
No,
days are only
no,
rest
not
days,
at
but it's
all.
like you at Disney you have to plan your rest days. So
Yeah.
unless we, at least for me, when I go to Disney, I am very much like on an itinerary. I've been the Excel spreadsheet guy, like I've done that, oh, this princess meets here and this princess meets here and this is this time and this is that time. And my Disney, the MDE app definitely kind of has replaced some of that. But yeah, for this trip, it was definitely like get there and I'm the rope drop to close guy. But that even that shifted a little bit for this trip. So generally I was wake up in the morning super early. I was generally in the first five people at the Skyliner or at the bus every day. Um, and then I was generally, just coming back to the resort and going straight to my room. Occasionally I'd venture to get a drink or get a snack or whatever. I did take one night to sit at the pool just for fun. I just put my feet in the pool and just sat there, but I never actually like put on a swimsuit and went swimming. Um, but yeah, it was very much point A to point B. Like I kind of knew what I wanted to do, and I didn't have a built-in rest day for this trip anyway. It was very like I knew where I was going, what I was doing, and I was trying to get it all done type thing.
And so, what is something other than maybe not planning an arrest day? What is something that you did solo that you didn't, or wouldn't do with your family? But I'm saying this in like now that you've done one solo trip, when you're thinking of your next solo trip, especially because you know what it's like to travel with your wife and your daughters, like what is something that you want to bring to your future solo trips now that you've done this one on your own?
Well, the first thing, the simplest thing that comes straight to my mind is my family does not like parades. So I
Mm,
was making a point, and obviously the nighttime parade didn't exist for any of our previous trips, so that's kind of different. But the daytime parade is something that my family never wants to stop and watch, and that's literally one of my favorite things. So I
mm.
made a point to get there early. I was in Frontierland, standing right by the post, and I got to see the whole parade start to finish. There was no strategy to it other than just to sit there and watch it. And I really, really enjoyed that. And normally we end up, we'll catch a glimpse of it, but generally we're running to this ride or running to that ride or going here, going there. My family never wanted to stop. It's just not one of their favorite things to do. And it's something that I always kind of compromised on. So that was something I was going to make a point. Like, I'm going to see this entire parade. And it just so happened that when I went in August, is when I went on my solo trip, um, the nighttime parade had started.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a new experience for me because I'm also a very big fireworks guy. Like I love not end of the night fireworks. I will at Magic Kingdom, I am the person that will sit down at 7:30 and wait an hour and a half so that I can be in the front row in front of the castle. You get your Casey's corn dogs and French fries, and you just sit there for an hour and hold that spot. Again, not something that my younger daughter or my wife enjoy doing. They would much rather be on all the empty rides. Um, so, but yeah, the nighttime parade changed that up because now you have to think like, well, if I'm finding a spot for the nighttime parade, which is very busy, especially when it was newer, is that spot going to be a good spot for fireworks? So that was something I had to figure out on my own. It was much easier to figure out by myself than with a family. But parades was one thing that I definitely prioritized while I was there. Um, the other thing I think, like as far as like future solo trips, is, um, and this is something I did differently. And it may not just be for solo trips. It might actually become a thing for future trips. Obviously, because me and my wife are getting older now as well. We're not old, but we're getting older.
I was like, I think we're in the same age group. Don't say that. But
Is
you have
this
children
solo?
to watch the passage of time. I
Yeah.
I don't.
I'm also a military guy with really bad knees. But the one thing I did on the solo trip was I took breaks, and
Mm.
I was adamantly against. I was like rope drop to close. We're there. We're going. Getting our monies. Whatever the excuse was. And this trip, and of course it's August, so it's just so hot. But every single day, Magic Kingdom, Hollywood Studios, Epcot, I took a break every single day. I went back to the hotel, and you walk into any hotel, but for me it's like you walk into your room at Pop Century, you don't even turn the lights off, you leave the shades closed, the air conditioner is like on 55 degrees,
Yeah.
and so
Just
you
walking
just
into a
lay there and rest.
refrigerator.
Yeah. And so every day I'd go back to the hotel, I took a shower, I changed my clothes, I'd lay down, I'd watch TV for about an hour and a half. I never actually fell asleep, so I can't really say that I took a nap. And then I would get back on the Skyliner and go back to the park. And that was such a shift for me, such a change, especially on my Epcot day, which was rope drop till 1 o'clock in the morning with after hours. That was a long day,
But
um,
you have the Skyliner.
but you have the Skyliner.
Yeah.
That makes a huge difference.
So I
So
wonder, when you said when you did the parade, like you had no agenda, and then you said like here, you built in the breaks. And I wonder, as like someone that is used to going to Disney as a dad with the Excel spreadsheets and everything planned out and like being aware of three other people's needs, I wonder if when you did your solo trip, you felt a little bit like you were giving yourself a break for things you didn't even realize were already on guard all the time. Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that was something that I didn't even wasn't able to fully appreciate in that moment. Like that was
Right.
something that
Yes.
didn't even
Yeah.
hit me until I got home from my trip on how much of a reset it was.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, you're standing there in that moment. You're intentional about I'm going to do this thing because I'm by myself and I can do whatever I want. You're not thinking about what's next. Like, oh, we got to go to the bathroom next. Then we got to get a snack next. Then we got a lightning lane. Then we got to ride. And then we got this. And then this character's. You're not thinking about that by yourself. You're able to really be intentional and just be like, I'm doing the. It's 1 o'clock. That's the parade. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And you're able to almost, leave your phone in your pocket, um, and just kind of sit there and look and actually see things. And you're not looking around like to make sure that strangers aren't tapping on your kids or, you can seriously let go of so much that you take
Mm-hmm.
for granted. Um, but yeah, when I got home from my trip, that's when I really appreciated like, wow, what a reset that was. It's like my whole body and brain had shifted and I came back with like it felt like 10 pounds lighter,
Mm.
and then it just made so much more space to do stuff back in real life again.
Yeah.
I came back like, oh, like I'm ready to get back in the gym and I'm ready to start, paying closer attention to my nutrition, and I'm getting ready to start my next college class. And it's like now you're recharged. You kind of
Mm-hmm.
drop some of that, you let your guard down, your body eases, and then you're just like, you're set. And
Yeah.
that's something when I came back and felt that, that's when I looked at my wife and I was like, this is something I've got to do again. Like this can't be a one-time thing. And it's not just Disney. It's not just going on vacation. It's not just spending money. It's getting to that safe space. I know that's such a
Yeah.
cheesy or overused word, whatever you want to call it, hippy dippy, but it really is. You can just escape to this space where you can just let everything go. You know that everybody back home is safe and taken care of and whatever, and you're just there in the moment, doing what you want to do and just having fun.
Yeah. Well, first, it's funny that you say hippy dippy because that's the name of the pool in Pop Century.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that is it's so much that if you don't understand it, you don't understand it. But there is a lightening of something when you're there that really can help you retrain certain things when you get home. And for a lot of times, I would come back from my solo trips. This was a few years ago when I was doing some work that just wasn't in alignment with like my soul. Speaking of hippy dippy, and I would come back from the trips and I would get really depressed because I was like, I feel a full sense of self in this other place, and that it gets closed down here. And so then it was like, well, how can I continuously create and tap into that full sense of self that I recognize is missing in this? And being at Disney allows that because of its safety, allows for a lot of that introspection there and when you're back. And I appreciate you saying that too, as a man in particular, because a lot of I had put on threads that someone was like, "Can we just get eldest daughters to like run the world?" And I'm like, I'm pretty sure they're all at Disney healing right now. And so, to hear that when I talk about safety, for example, on the podcast and talk about it as a healing space, that you as a man like feel that too, because it's hard for me to gauge what that experience is. But it's so interesting that you're sharing that too, because it's so nice to know that that is such a healing experience, a common experience for so many people going solo.
Yeah, it's something that I think you said it well, like you just don't know until you experience it. But it's definitely going to be something that I remember and try to recreate. And it is, it is something that you should try to recreate away from Disney because obviously you can't go to Disney once a month or multiple times a year.
Hmm.
That may be realistic for some people. It's not for me. So, um, but yeah, it's
But
definitely
I
something that
think
I would
also
like to
just
do
like
again.
knowing that there's a safe place where that exists is also really important. So like, okay, let's say you can only afford a trip once every 2 years, right? Knowing that it is a place that you can go to get that and connecting with people on social media or through podcasts and things like that to like be reminded. I like to do on the treadmill or the elliptical, like watching virtual walkthroughs of the parks, right? Like just connecting and reminding yourself that that exists, I think is really important. I have three final questions. We've talked so
Yeah,
long, but can we do the three final questions? Okay.
totally,
I'll
absolutely.
I'll give them all to you, and then maybe you can either do them as rapid fire or you can do them as like one big story. So first, what's a tip you have? Second, what's your favorite park? Which I know is a difficult question. And then third, what is something that you would recommend that solos like do or eat or see when they're on their solo trip?
Okay, so these actually won't be hard for me to answer at all. I kind of gave away the answer to number one, the tip, and I think that the best tip is to wear a button
Love
like
it.
that. I think that's absolutely got to be the best tip because it's such an icebreaker, especially if you're worried about interacting with others. If you don't want to be the one to initiate the conversation, let the button do it. Let the cast members initiate. Let other people initiate. Let the characters initiate. I think that's not what I would have said before my solo trip, but having been
Mm,
on it now, that is absolutely, if that's something that you are concerned about, wear a button, even if it's just a celebration button that says solo trip. Not everybody wants to broadcast that they're alone, so that there are things to think about there. But just anything like
yeah.
you know uh, self care or celebration, vacation, whatever you can think of.
Being at
Just
Disney.
yes, just a
Yeah.
conversation starter. So that's my tip. Favorite park is not hard for me. It's Epcot. It always has been ever since
Mm.
my first trip in fifth grade. Um, I didn't do it on my solo trip. I really wanted to, and I think I just got distracted. But in fifth grade, I still remember taking that passport around to every country and having that cast member write your name in their language. That was by far one of my favorite experiences as a kid, and Epcot's been my favorite ever since. I love the World Showcase. Mexico is my favorite pavilion. I could stand in there all day. um, and another hot take, another maybe unpopular, I do wish that they would update Three Caballeros to be a full Coco ride. But
Ooh, that is a hot take.
I know that it's another, people get mad about nostalgia changing and, oh, that's such a classic. Well, find a different place to put it. But either way, I think we need a Coco ride.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree with that for sure.
and then the last one, something to do. So I was concerned, um, again, about also being a, straight white male going to Disney by himself. I was concerned about like meeting characters and if
Yeah,
I
I
should
was gonna
do it
ask about
and
that.
should I stand in line and take up a little kid's turn and get in their way. Like that's really, I felt like I would be in the way.
Hmm.
um and then after a while I was just kind of like, I'm not going to do it a lot. I'm not going to go out of my way, and I'm not going to wait in line to meet a princess or a face character. But Goofy's my favorite, so I absolutely took a moment to go and meet Goofy. Again, birthday pin totally broke the ice. Got lots of good photos. I met Donald in that same queue, so I got to hang out with Donald a little bit. But I would say if you want to meet characters, if that's something you want to do, but you're worried about standing in line, do a character dining. So I did
Totally.
Topolino's. I went to Topolino's on my Epcot day. I left on the Skyliner, went to Topolino's, got to meet all four of them. I was sitting at a table by myself. The cast member did offer after she saw me. She's like, "Oh, you're here by yourself. Do you want me to take some pictures for you?" I'm like, "I got it. We're cool." And every time the characters would come up to me, I would say, "It's my birthday. Do you want to take a birthday selfie with me?" And the character came right behind me, and I would hold my phone out, and we did like a birthday selfie. So I got one with
Hmm.
Minnie, one with Daisy, one with Donald, and one with Mickey. And the whole time I just sat there by myself. And I'm convinced that I empowered another dad to seize his moment because they had come in, and I think it was another British family. There were lots of British people there. He sat down with his family, and then one of the characters came over. I think it was Mickey, and the mom and the two kids stood up to take their picture. And so, of course, the dad's the one holding the phone, so he's not in the picture. He's taking their picture. Well, they had just seen me do my selfie with that character. So after the dad took his photo of the family, his family was about to sit down and he grabbed his wife. He goes, no, 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 you're going to take my picture now. So he stood there with Mickey and got his picture taken. I was like, see, I'm helping people here. Like they saw me do it,
100%.
gave him a little courage. So now he got his picture. So yeah,
Well,
that's, I definitely think,
I hope other dads saw you too and thought like, "Oh, maybe I could do this. Maybe I could do
yeah,
this type of trip."
just
Like
relax a little
I
bit.
have all like my cousins, I have great dads in my immediate family. And like I can imagine some of them being like, "No, I couldn't do that trip without my kids." And now I want to be like, "Wait till they're teenagers." And you'll be like, "Oh, no, no. Actually, that's a great idea." I totally agree with you about meeting characters that if people, it's so funny because I just recorded that in another episode. If you think it's weird to meet characters, but you want to meet them, then just be like, oh, I just happen to be eating steak and eggs and Mickey's here as well. Right? Like,
Yeah.
I think it is such a great thing. And then you can go back to, and the interaction can be quite, insular. But I have heard that a lot of men are uncomfortable going to meet characters and I can understand that, but it's so frustrating because I don't want you to limit your experience there because of that anxiety. But I mean, I get why a man wouldn't want to go and see the princesses on their own because of like the not the optics of it, but like I assume you're like, oh, I don't want the princess to like be like, well, what kind of interaction is this going to be, right? Because I've
Yeah.
heard some of the princesses have had some, bad experiences.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, you had another anecdote. Let's.
Well, so in my trip, I met tons of people, and I was keeping track for a while, and I don't remember them all anymore. But I know I met a family from Montreal. I met a family from New York. I met a family from I think it was Colorado, and obviously I met some people from the UK, and there were a lot of them there. And so
Mm,
we were actually on the buses, and there was a family from the UK, and I think there was also a family from Scotland that were there. And we got to talking because, like, I think all three of the moms and maybe one of the dads as well were all teachers. So
mm.
we were all like, why are there so many like British people here? And I guess that's their summer vacation period. Like the time that I was there in August, they're like, this is just the time where all of us get our vacations in because once school starts, then we're in school and they were
And they get
educators.
fined if they take their kids out
Yes,
of school.
that was
Yeah.
what I was going to say.
Oh, sorry.
I did not know that. I learned that on the bus. I was like, wait a minute, you get fined for taking your kids out of school? And a lot, they were like, yeah, we do. And they're like, a lot of us, if we plan it, we're just going to get fined and go anyway, which I thought was kind of funny. But I did not realize that happened there. Like I've taken my kids out of school to go to Disney, and I just write the school a note saying, hey, Monday through Friday, we're going to be gone. We'll be in Disney. You can give us this homework now, or you can have them make it up when you come back. Like, just let us know how you want to work this. Like, we don't ask, we tell, and we figure it out later.
Yeah.
And it's never been an issue. So I just thought that was very funny that they actually got fined for missing school.
It's funny because I just saw an article in a British, online whatever that said that like travel agent mom and I could see the picture and I was like, "Oh, that's outside of the Mexico pavilion." And like, yeah, it was a trip to Disney. It's funny because like I can see the pros and cons of the fining system. But yeah, that is why there's so many concentrated. So you and I actually missed each other by like a couple days on our August trips. So do you have an idea about you're doing the May trip? Do you have an idea about when you want to go solo next?
Haven't really thought about it yet. The May trip, we scheduled off the bounce back offer from my solo trip, and it's going to be my wife and my two daughters and a friend who's never been before, and that's going to be at Saratoga Springs. And we actually have two planned rest days for that trip, so we're really trying to enjoy our time down there. But no, I have not really thought about it. I like going over my birthday, but I have an August birthday, and that heat was just insane.
Yeah.
um, but I also, and that was kind of another, uh, I guess, thing that worked out with me going solo is because my daughters start school really early in August. So by the time I was on the trip, they were in school. So it just me going by myself didn't have to worry about taking them out of school.
Right.
So that's something else that works out. So going solo, also another benefit is you don't really have to think about kids missing school because you're by yourself. So if I go back, I don't know if it'll be next year. It'd be nice if it could be next year, but um, I think it might be a little bit later in the year, maybe like September timeframe. And just so one, it's a little bit cooler, but also like I think the Halloween party started the day that I left. And if I'd
Mm.
have stayed one extra day, I could have gone to a Halloween party. I've already done a Halloween party, so I've had that experience already. But when I found out, I didn't know that when I booked the trip, but I found out the Halloween party was starting the night that I left. And so I was like, man, if I'd have stayed one more day. But yeah, maybe like a week later, 2 weeks later, maybe into September, the crowds stay low, the temperature drops a little bit, we hope. But then you also get the Food and Wine Festival, and you maybe potentially get some Halloween parties. So yeah, just I haven't set any hard dates yet, but it's definitely in the back of my brain.
Well, that's so exciting, and I hope to hear about it when you do it. So, Justin, this was amazing. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks for getting in touch with me, and the most all, like, thanks so much for telling your story and like sharing your experience. It was such a great conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I had a lot of fun.
All right. Oh, how can people get in touch with you if they want to like see your trips with family and with solo and everything?
So I have an Instagram. It is Gunny J Rod, so GUNNY JROD. That's my Instagram. I post lots of trip photos there. I love making photo collages and setting them to music. So like there's a couple on there from some of our trips and whatnot. But yep, that's where you can
That's
find me.
awesome. And the link is below, so if people didn't write it down, you can click. Thank you again, and I guess we'll see you in the parks.
Yeah. Okay.
All
See you
right.
soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey Solos, it's Samantha. I hope you enjoyed this episode and all the episodes of Disney Solo Magic, the #1 podcast for solo travel to Disney World. You can reach me on all of the different social media. All of those links are in this description below. You can also listen to this podcast on Apple, Spotify, and on YouTube. It'd be really great if you rated, reviewed, and subscribed. It's really a wonderful way to let other people know about the podcast. And as you know, we also have a Patreon where you can get bonus content, you can get bonus episodes, you can get all of the videos of us doing the solo stories, and a whole bunch more. So come and join us on Patreon. And thanks again for listening to the podcast. Bye.